Hey there, today I'm going to walk you through the process of stitching one of these little designs onto a piece of clothing. I've chosen a pair of jeans for demonstration purposes, but you can stitch these literally onto anything you like. I'm going to show you how to do this step by step, starting with prep. Number 1, iron on interfacing. You get 4 sheets of this interfacing in the kit, 2 of which are heavyweight and 2 are medium. I recommend you use heavyweight interfacing for things like hoodies, crew neck jumpers, jeans, and basically just any heavy fabric. Medium is for things like t-shirts. You can tell the difference between the weights once you have them in your hand. Camera doesn't really demonstrate it, I'm sorry. One thing you'll need for this is an iron. I hope you got one. First, cut out a piece of this interfacing to be just slightly larger than the stick and stitch patch. You'll notice one of the sides of the interfacing has a shine to it. That's the melting side, just keep that in mind. Next, figure out the placement for the patch, but don't stick it just yet. Our interfacing has to go first. If you mess this step up, your patch will be ruined. It'll simply shrink because of the heat. Locate the area where your patch will be on the opposite side of your piece of clothing and just press it with like an iron for, I don't know, 10 seconds. Depending on the heat of your iron, you might have to do it a couple times. And once it's fully stuck, let it cool down before you do anything else to it. Please note, this iron-on interfacing is non-removable. It will stay on the inside of your clothing for good. And the reason why you should use it is because this thing stabilizes your fabric for embroidery. Without it, chances are your stitches will go loose and get all jagged up. Don't skip this step. Number 2, patch application. Next, you're going to want to stick your patch where it needs to go. Exact opposite to the interfacing on the other side, remember? Simply peel off the backing and stick. Next step is very important. Thread your needle with some thread and run a simple stitch around the edges of your patch, securing it to the fabric. This will make sure you have your patch where it needs to be throughout the whole stitching process. You can't trust the stickiness of the patch. It's not very strong and it will want to come off. So don't forget the step. Number 3, hoop it. Now, hoop your project. Be gentle. Try not to stretch your fabric too much. The stabilizer will help stabilize it, but still try to keep the state of your fabric as natural as you can. If you stretch it too much, it will ruin your whole embroidery before you even start. And the worst thing about it is that you're not even gonna know if it's ruined until you take it out of the hoop. So try to be precise, don't force it. Number 4, stitching. Now you just stitch. I recommend satin stitch for this kit, but obviously you're free to do as you like. I'll share some satin stitch tips in a moment, but first I want to show you what satin stitch is and how to do it properly. You're going to want to thread your needle once again with this gorgeous embroidery thread. Make sure you're using the right color, the references are right there on the card, and the needle in the kit is just the right size for it. Then make a nice little knot at the end. My first important recommendation when it comes to stitching has to do with the order you stitch these shapes. Start from the top, finish at the bottom, or vice versa. This will help your whole process tremendously. I'll explain why in a bit. I'm going to start with the shape here at the top. I'm going to bring my needle up on the line. I'm attempting a perfectly vertical stitch here. Put it down on the line here at the top. Then come back up, but not here where I just finished my stitch. Instead, I'm going to do it right next to the start of my previous stitch, and then bring it down on the line here again. Repeat this zigzag motion until you're done with this shape. Once you're done, make a knot as close to the fabric as you can and cut. Move on to the next shape right below it, and then the one below it until you're finished. Now, why this order of shapes? Notice how when I move on to my next shape, I have this whole bottom line completely untouched. This gives me freedom to poke around and find the right placement for my needle to come through. If this shape here was already stitched, and this top one was stitched as well, I would be poking around through these stitches and messing with them. This strategy makes your overall embroidery work look a lot cleaner. And actually, it's not super fun to poke around the area where there are already stitches in my way. Number 5. Wash off the patch. Once you're finished, all you gotta do is wash off this patch under a tap. Make sure the water is lukewarm and the tap is not too strong. You want to be gentle and not mess with your stitches. The patch will start to come off very quickly. Let it do its thing, especially around the stitches. Then turn your piece inside out and run the tap onto this side of the embroidery. This will help the patch to dissolve underneath your stitches. Don't skip this step or you'll be awarded with very stiff embroidery. Number 6. Let it air dry. And once you're confident you've done your best to get rid of the patch, you need to let it dry. But please try and do it in a very specific way. I'll explain why you should. First, squeeze as much water out of this piece as possible by using gentle force of your hands. Do not twist it or apply strong force. Try to preserve your stitches as they are. This step only gets rid of a small portion of the water, so don't worry if it's still super drenched. Next, get some paper towels, or if you don't have those, use a regular clean towel. Find a flat waterproof surface and lay your towels down. Then place your piece of clothing on top and cover it with more towels. Now you can apply force. Swap the towels as you need to and squeeze as much water as you can. Then, let it air dry in the shade. Do not iron it, do not heat dry it, do not put it in the sun, do not put it outside. Simply hang it somewhere in your home, away from the sun, and let it do its thing until completely dry. And there you go, all finished with a beautiful little landscape patch. I'm gonna add more of these to my jeans later. I guess I'll keep you updated on how it goes.